These 7 miter saw upgrades improved my woodworking a lot, and they are pretty dang inexpensive, excuse my language. They improve accuracy, protect these things on the end of our hands, and can help build things faster. But the last upgrade, well, let's just say it took me a while to take people's advice, and I am glad I did for multiple reasons. The first upgrade is a tool from FastCap called the $10 million stick, and it's great for keeping your fingers away from the blade when you're cutting a piece, but I was having a little issue. When I was using this stick on smaller pieces, even when I was pushing it down really hard, the blade would push the small piece of wood out of square. Here's what I mean, and I'm making it one continuous shot because, and I quote, "You can't always believe what you see on the internet." Abraham Lincoln. You can see the gap between the wood and the miter saw fence, which is not going to work when you need to cut a piece square. First, I think maybe I'm just being silly and using this wrong. I mean, that does sound like me. But when I looked at the FastCap website, they have photos of someone using the stick the exact same way I'm using it. So I tried something a little different. I turned the stick backwards. I'm a genius, I know, and it worked really well this way. One continuous shot again, and you're going to see something that no one has ever said about Michael Strahan's front teeth. No gap. FastCap, if you're watching this, the $10 million stick is a great idea and works wonderfully if the piece is supported by both sides of the fence. But it's not working well for smaller pieces. Either the stick needs to be used backwards or a complete design change is needed, or you can come out with a second stick for these small pieces called the Totally Helpful, Outstanding, Magnificent, Amazingly Sufficient Stick, or T.H.O.M.A.S stick for short. Until they come out with that amazing new product, use their $10 million stick along with this miter saw jig, which works great for small pieces in multiple ways. The base of this jig will be slightly wider and almost the maximum depth of my miter saw. The back fence will be 2.5 inches high, but a little shorter in the middle, and you'll see why in a second. This rubber piece, which is part of a really important upgrade you'll see later in this video, was getting in the way, so I cut the back fence about 3/4 of an inch shorter. Okay, so what is this jig and what's the point of it? All right. So this jig, yes, prevents these smaller wood pieces from getting out of square when you cut them, but it also is going to prevent tear out on the bottom and back side of your workpiece. To secure the back fence to the base, I'm using medium thick CA glue and accelerator, and to make sure that the jig doesn't move side to side while I'm using it, I'm adhering some 3/4 inch by 1/2 inch pieces of MDF on each side, also using CA glue. Okay, this next part is really important. When making the zero clearance cut, use the depth stop on your miter saw so you don't cut all the way through the jig. This will make the jig a lot stronger and more sturdy. This is a great and inexpensive jig to make for smaller pieces. And another great thing about this is you can really accurately line up your cut line to the blade for much more precision when you're making your cuts. Okay, we have solved the issue of tear out on smaller pieces, but what about tear out on much longer pieces, which frankly is the majority of what I cut on the miter saw? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but first let's talk repeatable cuts. If you have not met my buddy T-Track, he's great and I think you would get along really well. He's reliable and really easy to work with. This is what I secure my stop block to, and to make sure my pieces are the exact length I need them to be, I put self-adhesive measuring tape on these foldable wings. I'm making my stop block out of white oak, and if you don't make your stop block out of white oak too, you're not a real woodworker. I like to build things with 4 legs, tables, stools, benches, etc., etc. And I need all 4 of those legs to be the exact same length, which is what makes T-Track with this stop block so useful. I get asked a lot what type of plywood I used for this mobile miter saw station I built, and I used birch plywood, and you can tell that it's birch because of the way it is. You just saw me bend over to turn on the shop vac that's connected to my miter saw, and a little later in the video you'll see why I'll never have to do that again. Here's the throat plate that came with my saw, and I'm going to test the tear out on 3 types of woods: plywood, pine, and white oak. I'm going to give you two solutions on how to decrease tear out on the miter saw. One is a little more time consuming, but you'll be the judge on which one is going to work for you. But I discovered something when filming this video. My throat plate adjusts to become a zero clearance insert. Good job, Bosch. And the results were pretty dang good. But if you don't have this feature on your saw, you can use some zero clearance tape. It's nice and inexpensive, and you literally just stick it on, cut it, and you're done. If time is an issue, I would say this is a solid choice for decreasing tear out. The results were pretty good, but not quite as good as the next upgrade I'm going to show you. And because I only had this product for one day, I cannot attest to the longevity of it, but just feeling the material, it seemed like it would hold up long term. A zero clearance insert plate is going to take a little longer to make, but is going to be the best solution to decrease tear out, and also will ensure that those little pieces don't drop down into your miter saw. I marked where my screw holes are going to be, and then I'm cutting the tape to size with an X-Acto knife, and this blue tape will be my template for the zero clearance insert plate. I did not come up with this method myself. I am not that smart. I got it from John Peters, who has a great YouTube channel, and I encourage you to watch his woodworking channel after you watch maybe 7 or 8 more of my videos. I do not have a great way to resaw wood in my shop, so I am thicknessing it, that is a word, don't look it up, using my planer so I can make sure it's the exact thickness I need it to be, which is about 3/8 of an inch. Some of the upgrades in this video are products from companies, but I am in no way sponsored by any of those companies. These are my completely unfiltered thoughts. If you've liked this video so far, feel free to subscribe. And if you like any of the furniture in my workshop, like my mobile miter saw station or this 2-for-1 tool cart that flips, I have plans for all of it on my website, and I'll put a link to that website in the description below. One issue I've had in the past is when making that first cut into a zero clearance insert plate, I've gotten tear out, but I'll show you in a little bit how to decrease the chances of that happening. Okay, I have to come clean. I wasn't gonna tell you, and then I thought, no, I have to be honest. My holes didn't line up perfectly when I was installing the plate into the miter saw, so I had to whiten them with my drill. There you go, I said it, now you know. The mark of a good woodworker is not whether or not you're going to make mistakes, because you are, it's how good you are at fixing those mistakes. Blue painter's tape is how I'm decreasing the chances of tear out on this first cut, and it worked wonderfully. So how did this upgrade do on the tear out test? Let's see. Pretty gosh darn great. If it wasn't for the final upgrade, which you'll see next, this would be my favorite upgrade of the entire video, but both will help improve your health. Like a lot. This is a dust chute from Travis at Shop Nation, and he makes a bunch of different dust chutes for a variety of miter saws. But really, how well does it work at collecting the dust at the saw and keeping it out of your lungs? Well, let's see. I made 5 cuts into a 2x4 with the shop vac off, and then 5 cuts with the shop vac on. I realized this doesn't test this dust chute against the dust chute that came with the saw, but the Shop Nation YouTube channel has a bunch of those videos that you are welcome to check out. I am so thankful I made this upgrade a little while ago, and my lungs are thankful as well. I mean, I had a miter saw for over 3 years, which did not have the capability to hook up a shop vac to it, and yeah, my shop was very dusty. This last upgrade is probably my favorite, and I'm really proud of myself for coming up with this solution all by myself with no help whatsoever from my YouTube or Instagram audiences. Okay, this is really cool. I am installing a double outlet which I will plug my miter saw and my shop vac into. 1 second after I start my miter saw, my shop vac will automatically turn on, and then when I'm done, the shop vac will automatically turn off about 10 seconds later. Not only is this convenient, but it will help out my low back not having to bend over to turn on and off the shop vac. Yeah, these upgrades are cool, but I got some bad news. You can't utilize all of them unless you have a solid miter saw station. But you're in luck! I have a video right here where I show you how to build my king-size mobile miter saw station, which you've seen a lot of already. I'll see you over there.